Because the pen tool is so essential for selecting hard-edged objects, I want to make sure that we all know how to use it. If you're already a master at the pen tool, then feel free to skip this chapter and move right on to the third composite. If you've never used the pen tool or you need a quick refresher and you practice, this chapter will enable you to get up to speed quickly. First of all, let's take a look at what we're creating. I'm going to zoom in and move to the upper right. If you select the pen tool by tapping the P key, then every time you click, you lay down what's called an anchor point. If you click again, you create what's called a line segment. If you decide to click and drag with the pen tool, you drag out what's called a direction line, and at the end of the direction line is a direction point. So let's take a look and see how this works. I'm going to click on the first black square here to set down my first anchor point, and then click again in order to create a line segment. I can click again and again in order to create straight paths. Now, if I make a mistake, I can tap the delete key, and the delete key will delete the last anchor point that I laid down. If I want to delete the entire path, I tap delete again. All right, let me redraw the path by clicking on each one of these black squares, and now I want to modify the path. If I select the Path Selection tool and I click on the path, I can move the entire path. If I only want to modify a segment of the path, then I choose the Direct Selection tool. Then I can click on a single path and drag it, or I can click on a line segment in order to move it. As soon as I create a path, in the Paths panel, I have a work path. If I want to save this, I can use the flyout menu and choose to save path. I give the path a name and click OK. If I want to create a close path, I'll tap the P key to select the pen tool again. I'll click once, twice, 3 times, and when I position my pen tool over the initial anchor point, you can see I get the circle icon in the lower right, and that tells me that if I click here, I will actually close the path. If I want to add a path, I position the pen tool on top of the path, I get the plus icon, and click to add an anchor point. If I want to subtract a point, I hover on top of an anchor point and click to remove it. You can see in the Paths panel that as I draw more paths, it's adding it to path 1 because that path is selected in the Paths panel. From here, if I wanted to turn this path into a selection, I could click on the selection icon at the bottom of the Paths panel. Now I could do things like add masks or adjustment layers that would only affect the area within the selection that I have. Of course, there are other things I could do with paths. If we reselect the path here and I choose the flyout menu, you see that there's other things that I could also do. For example, I could stroke the path. So that's how you create simple straight paths with a pen tool.